Drew, we're here to talk about a Pokemon game, and it doesn't make me sad this time.
That's your opening bit?
That's my opening bit. That's all I had.
Okay.
It's something.
Good for you. I'll get you a fucking Kroger cupcake.
You didn't have fucking anything?
I have lots of things!
Then do it!
Oh, like food.
Like a
No,
bit.
I have a lot of things to talk about.
No, a bit, I meant.
Oh, I don't have that either. I don't have very many things. I'm a humble man.
Whatever. So after the abysmal dog chow that was Scarlet and Violet...
Alright, let's just start. Okay, alright. So, like, I honestly, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm having a hard time figuring out if I had more fun with Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield. Because the thing is, Sword and Shield at least has better graphical performance, and there's something about the poor graphical performance and frame rate issues of Scarlet and Violet that legitimately make it difficult for me to want to go back and play it.
Yeah, it's a detriment to the gameplay entirely. But I will say, I think I definitely had more fun with Scarlet and Violet just because it was so fresh in terms of like concept.
Yeah.
It was so fresh in terms of like, oh, it's not purely one-to-one of you're going to all these places and you have to do all these things. It's like, oh, you can do them in your own order.
That's true. I think I like Sword and Shield for the same reason I like X and Y, which is just like, it's a pretty by-the-numbers Pokemon game, but the dex is huge. So it's easy to replay in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like other than that, I don't think Sword and
How
Shield
big
is
was
like...
the dex in Scarlet and Violet?
Same as Sword and Shield, actually, 400.
Oh, okay.
And we'll get into this later on, but X and Y's is actually even bigger.
Jeez.
Yeah, all the way back in 2013. But yeah, like I enjoyed the first playthrough of Scarlet and Violet, and I was like, maybe I'll replay it. And I just never replayed it. And then, the 2 waves of DLC came out, and I'm like, those look relatively fun. I mean, nothing game-changing, obviously, but like if I enjoy the base game, I'll enjoy those. And I still like don't care. Like I can't. And I don't want it to sound shallow that like graphics and performance make me not want to replay a game that bad, but you also have to understand that like for as much as Scarlet and Violet does change, it is still a Pokemon game at its core. So especially when I've been playing the series all the way through for my entire life, it's like, yeah, there's a lot I like about Scarlet and Violet, but like I played through it once and I feel like that was enough. I appreciate what I like about it, but I don't care enough to go back.
I think the biggest thing about that, like, because it doesn't sound shallow to me. The biggest thing I compare it to is Breath of the Wild, where you're where you say like performance. Like sometimes when you're going way too fast and it rarely happens, but when you're flying in and like an area needs to load, you'll just like freeze for a moment. But it just happens for a moment, and you're back in. Like that rarely ever happens, but you do catch it sometimes, and that takes you out of the game a little bit, but it doesn't do anything detrimental. It happens so much in Scarlet and Violet that you just can't you can't focus. You're just wishing something would fix this issue.
Yeah.
And like for something like Sword and Shield, I'll say that's a positive, because like Sword and Shield typically does run fairly smooth, and like
except you're in the wild area, which is like the biggest selling point of that game.
Exactly. It was a test. It was a test for them, but still, like in the basics of the town, everything runs.
Yeah, like the basic talents and routes. It's like, yeah, this is an HD Pokemon game.
Yeah, and it's fine in that regard, but like once again, Pokemon is just kind of like not having enough. I mean, it even shows in Legends Arceus in some cases where you're just chugging.
Yeah.
Like you're 10 feet away from a Pokemon, and they're just like 3 frames. They're like,
yeah.
Which I prefer that instead of the actual chugging of your character.
I saw some, not that this is surprising at all, but I saw some mindless drone on Twitter tweet out, "Can we stop pretending like Legends Arceus looks bad? The art style is great." I'm like, both of those are true, right? Like, yes, the art style is great. It's full direction. The game looks like ass.
But yeah, like, as much as I praise that game, I have to say, it's like, oh, it's so beautiful.
Bro, all you have to do is, like, get on Braviary and look at a lake.
Yeah.
And it's made up of, like, fucking squares.
Oh, I was gonna say, go to the marsh, the second area, and it is just repeated tiles.
Yeah.
It is so repeated, and it's like, listen, that's acceptable in this game because it's an entirely new concept in my mind, and it's like,
yeah.
my fantasy brain can whisk that away and kind of just go for the adventure. But
it's harder
I would like it to be fixed in the future.
It's harder to whisk that stuff away on a repeat playthrough.
Yes, because you really notice it.
Right.
You're really looking at the details next time, and you're just like, gosh,
it's harder to be immersed when you know you've already been through something before.
Yes.
The first playthrough, it's easier to immerse yourself in the world, even if it looks like stinky doggy poo poo. But
and I mean, like, again, like, even the most creative of the Legends Arceus tiles and textures, like, they're not that special. Like, there's like a few columns, you know, like that's the extent of their creativity there, which is fine because they're dealing with, again, first playthrough, you're dealing with a whole new concept, and you're just like, okay, well, this is what we got, this is what we're gonna do, this is how we're gonna do our best at it, and it's like, okay, caves, interesting systems, I'm fine with that.
Yeah. It's just, I think it's going to be like this for a while. I guess this is my thesis statement for the day. And please understand, I don't enjoy being a wet blanket. No one that's negative about everything ever enjoys it.
No, yeah.
I don't think we should be too excited for Legends ZA right now because I don't know. None of us know what it's going to be like. And I'm not saying, oh, I know it's going to be bad. It's just like we literally have not seen the game. So, that, and for a couple other smaller reasons we'll go into later. Let's not jump to conclusions about how this will be instantly better than Legends Arceus or Scarlet and Violet just because it comes after those games.
No, it's a very different system. I will say the one thing that's giving me much more positive vibes is that they're doing the same thing they did with Legends Arceus, where they're giving it a year. They're letting it breathe, and that's something in my mind.
See, I feel like with every single topic that we bring up, I'm gonna be like, oh, wait, hold on, wait a minute, oh.
It could be. I mean, that's...
Because, now, in fairness, something I did not realize and had to be pointed out to me was when they revealed Legends Arceus, the trailer explicitly said, in the first trailer, early 2025. This game does not say early 2025, it just says 2025.
Yes.
With that said, you know this could still come out in January.
It could. It could.
Which, like, isn't going to make that much of a difference. And I remember release day, I was raving to you guys, like, oh, I'm just so relieved we're not going to have another game this year. And then I was reminded about 10 minutes later that we've had a case before. It wasn't in the same year as another major release, but we've had a big release announced in May and released in November, and that was Let's Go, which means that they could easily go, like, they're not necessarily going to go this fiscal year without a major release, and just in May announce actually Ilka garbage fucking black and white remakes. Are you ready for Chibi Getsis? Are you ready for it?
I don't know, because I think
the answer's no, you're not.
I think a lot of the things, because this was another thing too, a lot of people are pointing this out. Pokemon seems to really be pushing, like, next year. Like, they're doing a lot for next year, and so I'm wondering, I've seen a few think pieces, and I don't have any comment on them, but I've just, as a counterpoint, I've seen a lot of people saying that, oh, is Pokemon taking a step back? Is Pokemon, like, letting this year run? And I'm like, I don't think so, but I think it would be wise to do so, because, like all those farming sims, gotta let your crops rest a little bit. Gotta let things... We can go a year without seeing fucking Pikachu. We can go a year without seeing...
I take personal offense to that.
I take personal offense to you, that's fine. Listen, it's just what happens, and it's just fact that... We had that Mario Direct recently, or well, not recently, but like in September. Remember, where it was just those Mario games, and you're just like, fuck, man, anything else.
And 2 of them look cheap, and 1 of them is for babies.
Yeah, and you're just like, come on, give me something that's not Mario.
Yeah.
We even turned on, no plug here, we even turned on Roger's Base. And he was the biggest Nintendo, like, shill. Like, was struggling to say nice things about that Direct. And we were just like, my gosh, how disappointing is that?
What else was shown off in that Direct?
Exactly.
A fucking Contra game that looks like it was made in 2009, and a Metroidvania where the main character's name is Enigma. Which I've heard is really good. I will try Prince of Persia because Silk Song left me with the kids. I swear to fucking God.
But
I will never forgive them until the game comes out, and I will instantly die drowning in my own hot, boiling cum of love.
oh my gosh.
Until then, they'll fuck Team Cherry, fuck Australia. Hashtag. The one thing that's giving me hope that they won't announce some dick-ass garbage game in May or June. I have my fingers crossed so much. There's no blood flow. They're fucking purple. Is their main source of revenue this year, besides like the usual other mobile games like Unite and Masters, could be still not from a Game Freak produced game, because they announced one game coming out this year that's brand new is Pokemon trading card game Pocket, and as soon as that comes out, we don't know what month, as soon as that comes out this year, all of our wallets get Thanos'd into the atmosphere. That is the best idea they've had since Go. Oh my god.
It was really funny too. I was just thinking, I think I posed the question to you. I'm like, has there been like a trading card like video game for Pokemon? And you said yes, there has been. And I was like, why haven't I heard of it? Why? And you're like, because it sucks. It's not. It doesn't have enough. And I was just like,
let's be careful there.
Well, I didn't say that, but
I don't know much about it. But it never took off. I think it was mainly just like. I don't think you opened cards in the app. I think you had to scan them in, like cards you physically bought. Which I suspect that TCG Pocket might let you do too, but TCG Pocket also lets you just have digital cards, which I think is the biggest selling point. Is like, I could easily be a trading card addict, but I don't want them taking up physical space. I buy like one little booster pack and I'm like, oh, but then if I keep going, it's just, I'm going to have to get like another like folder or video, and I don't want to do that. Now they're all digital, so I'm just going to be giving this company $10,000 a year.
Well, an interesting point I wanted to make, and this was something we kind of barely touched on Discord, was my friend has a Yu-Gi-Oh card game, and he plays it on PS5. And it's a very like high quality, like, you can buy cards, you can make decks, you can do all this sort of thing. And I was just looking at this thinking, like, why doesn't Pokemon do this? Like,
yeah, because so much of their money, too, comes from the TCG.
Yeah, and I'm just like, this would be a huge money maker.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, if they brought that to consoles, can you fucking imagine? And I'm just like...
Honestly, even if they... I mean, I agree.
On phones, sure, yeah.
Even if they just leave it on phones. Bro, all they had to say was 2 free packs a day, and, like, you know everything you need to know. I'm glad you can trade with people too. That's super cool.
Yeah. Granted, Yu-Gi-Oh is a bit more complicated with its rules, but
yeah, you
can fuse cards and everything, and like they have like the whole battlefield set up, and you're just like,
I mean, it's okay. No one actually knows how to play the Pokemon trading card game.
Well, hasn't it had so many rules that people like play like 2 versions? One is like or like the most basic of rules, and the other is like all of the rules or something.
Yeah, as soon as that game comes out, we're gonna be learning.
Yeah,
we're gonna be hitting
time
the
to
books.
Open your textbooks.
I gotta use this Ampharos EX for something.
But granted, that kind of the whole point of that conversation about this card game is kind of like thinking, okay, well, if that is their plan, hopefully that'll give them more time with ZA. And I'm just hoping that's true.
I hope so too. We all hope. Out of like, for every 100 people I've seen online say, assuming of course we don't get a later announcement of like Dick Black and Fuck White, and it's gonna be only one and everyone's chibi and there's no extra editions because it's a faithful remake and it was made in 10 months. Everyone's been saying, dude, thank you. This is exactly what we wanted. We just want to wait for a better product. For every 100 people saying that, I've seen one person say, I can't believe I'm not going to have anything to play this year. Like, this is the only thing you play?
Yeah, but to say, where are you seeing that? Is that your own? Is Pokemon the only thing
Even
you play?
if you're a no-life nerd, surely you play other video games.
Yeah.
Anything, bro. Anything. Go play Final Fantasy. Go play God of War. Warcraft. Mario. Anything.
I can't believe I couldn't play anything Zelda in 2021 or 2022. I can't believe I couldn't play anything other than a really dumb remake.
Except my entire other library. Bro, even if you only have a Switch, because I was reminded today, we were recording this on the Switch's 7th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
We now have over... I know a lot of this is shovelware, but still, just let me make a point that sounds smart so I can feel better about myself. The eShop has 11,000 games.
And even then, you
can get like 5 to get you through to the next year.
And you want to know how many of those are actually pretty good games? At least like 1,000.
At least.
At least, and that's still way more than you need. You got games.
Bro, you got Nintendo. You got Capcom. Shit.
But it doesn't have like a Flareon, and I don't. And I just shut up. Shut up. You're fine.
I just don't understand why these mindless leeches on our fucking salty planet, why they want us to choose between a game that's already going to be rushed anyway or a game that's even more rushed.
Yeah.
Because it's not even like an extra 12 months is going to make the next Pokemon game look like fucking Spider-Man 2. But like, can we take what we can get, please?
I think the biggest thing that a lot of people are saying, well, obviously because of your comparison, it's like, we're obviously, I don't know how low your expectations can be, but mine are pretty fucking low. And that being said, I'm thankful at least for a year.
Yeah.
Like a year of clearance where it's just like, okay, they're not developing Arceus and Scarlet and Violet at the same time.
Right.
They're just doing this one.
Now, to play devil's advocate, and not to like crush dreams, but just to keep things real, like how it worked for Arceus was that was developed by a B team, and an A team was developing Scarlet and Violet. Mm-hmm. So it was still split. And I expect this is going to be the same thing. I don't think
Probably.
It's all hands on deck for this and then all hands on deck for whatever Gen 10 is. But if it means anything, I do suspect, like some others, that we're going to wait until 2026 for Gen 10 because that is an anniversary year. That's the 30th anniversary.
Okay.
They don't have to. Like, there's nothing saying they have to. It doesn't really mean anything. Like, Sun and Moon was also an anniversary game. It doesn't really show. It just feels like a new Pokemon game.
The latest
new
Pokemon.
stuff.
Yeah.
But, I mean, if you really want to huff 3 ounces of copium, you could say that no matter when Legends comes out next year, even if it's January, that'll be the only major release. And they'll just save Gen 10 for the year after. Honestly, shit, I didn't even think about this. Considering that Legends Z to A is going to be on the Switch, and it's not going to be on Switch 2. It's not, because I said so. But I think if Switch 2 does come out next year, as many people are saying, I think it'll release around the same time, which especially works out if the Switch 2 is backwards compatible. But the reason it would release on Switch instead of Switch 2 is just to reach a wider player base. They did the same thing with Black and White 2. That came out a year after the 3DS, but they didn't make it for 3DS so that they could sell to more people. By then, the DS had sold, like fucking 200 million copies.
Yeah.
and the 3DS was still going through its like growing pains of a weak launch. So I think it's just that again.
But I mean, so far there is nothing to really say that we can't at least be a little hyped. I mean, granted, this just happened. This is like what, a week out, or not even like.
Not even. Yeah, this is Tuesday. We're recording on Sunday.
And so there's been quite a bit of buzz. And I'm wondering, should we just get into our potential predictions, pretty much, for the game, or like our think pieces?
Yeah. Let's start getting deep in the paint, because they showed that the guy went to sleep, and then Raiko showed up at his house, and I think they're gonna have a Sleeping Entei event in June. Okay. I had a weird realization. It took me like a day to actually like let this idea hit me in the head like a fucking brick. That like you have a lot of nostalgia for Sinnoh, as do I, because we're in like the same general age group, right? Because I'm 25 and you're 24.
Yeah.
Right. So we were at the nice ripe age of underage for.
Pretty much.
Wait, hold on. That's not what I mean. No.
We were at a very impressionable age.
No, Ronald McDonald, get away! I don't want the clown burger. I just mean, fuck.
Yes,
what I also mean is, it was like Gen 4 came out at just the right time, that like we'd been exposed to Pokemon after, but we're starting to play video games. Our parents are buying us these new systems, and that's like when it really hooks into us, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I remember that you went kind of AWOL with Nintendo for a bit.
Yep.
But which is understandable. A lot of people did at the time, but that means not only did you not play through Gen 5, you didn't play through Gen 6, which is what this game is centered around, is Gen 6.
I watched from afar a little bit, but I never really got back in.
I did want to warn you, knowing how you feel about Pokemon and how it's kind of similar to how I feel, I don't think you really need to go back to X and Y. It is not a horrible game. It's just, it is extremely, very by the numbers, plays it safe. There was a lot to appreciate about it when it came out, and there's still a decent amount to appreciate about it now that like even like Sun and Moon and onwards didn't really like take after in some ways, but there's nothing about X and Y that's gonna like excite you, which is why Legends ZA is really cool. I'm actually really intrigued that we didn't just do a Unova or Johto game like everyone was predicting, because X and Y are the games that most definitely needed something. They needed like a Z or like an X2 and a Y2, something, and they never did. I kind of want to go over this because it's a little more specific than that about just how fucked Gen 6 got. So let's see. I don't know if I'm gonna read this verbatim. I wrote this whole fucking diatribe.
I mean, you can.
The manifesto of a 3DS cuck. That's me. I'm 3DS cuck. You can see the /u/ next to my name. Please give me Reddit upvotes. Weird. Your face just smushed.
Oh my gosh.
I'm steeped in so many layers of irony, like a cake.
With no cake.
So Pokemon X and Y just kind of feel incomplete in a couple of ways. Like they share some qualities with like Gen 4, and like, you know how like the Arceus event was never used, right? Because like the key item for it, they never released for an event. There's a mythical in Gen 6 called Volcanion that like was distributed as like, oh, you go to the Pokemon, here you go, because you went to Toys R Us, haha. But like there's an area by a power plant, and if you go out of bounds, there's an area with lava. This thing's a fire water type. You just can't get there. Like, you can look at it in the distance, but there's no like path there. It's just like a couple things like that. But most awkwardly being Zygarde. You have an X legendary and a Y legendary. In the post game, in this random fuck off cave, you find a Z legendary, and its Pokedex entries mention like, this thing will save the world when the ecosystem falls into ruin, and it just never does that because the post game is absurdly short. It's like one little side quest with like Looker in like the big town, and it has nothing to do with any legendary or Xerneas and Yveltal at all. It has unused attacks that relate to Xerneas and Yveltal, as in like, because Zygarde's weak to them, but these attacks are like effective against them. They're just left in the code. Lots of stuff like that, which is great. But like the last time that we had a legendary clearly related to the box legendaries with unused attacks in the code, Kyurem, we got Black 2 and White 2, and no, it's not gray, but like it has Kyurem, it has the extra forms, it has those attacks being used. So next gen, we see Zygarde, and like, oh, we're obviously gonna get Z. Like the signs are already here, and it just never happened because X and Y came out 2013. 2014, we got the Ruby and Sapphire remakes. 2015 was a gap year, which our last gap year, if you don't count. Or if you do count like DLC for the last few gens. Our last gap year, 2015. It's been a fucking decade. And then 2016 you get Sun and Moon. Now Sun and Moon come out. Data miners look through the files. And if my understanding's right, there's like a list of games in the data. And I think the purpose of the list is like to tell where Pokemon come from if they've been like transferred. So like, oh, this comes like all the way from like Red on 3DS Virtual Console, or this comes from Pokemon X. And it includes like every version, not just generations.
Yeah.
So in there's at the time of like our data mining Sun and Moon, there's games that have not released yet. There's two called Alola Reserve that are different from Sun and Moon. Later on, we'd get Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. Okay. There's like Gold, Silver, and Crystal listed, but they're different from the Game Boy ones. And it implies they're like Virtual Console. We already have Virtual Console Gen 1. Later on, we get Virtual Console Gen 2. There's two other games in the code that to this day have never been released, and they're called Kalos Reserve. I wonder what that could be. Cut to an interview with Masuda, and he's like, yeah, we were never planning a Gen Z, or a Pokemon Z, or like any follow-up to that. We wanted to leave X and Y on its own. And that's super hyper bullshit for the 64, for the Nintendo 64. The other thing is, it was around this time. I'm almost done, it's okay. I'll put on Subway Surfers.
No, you're fine. I'm intrigued.
This is taking longer than I thought it would. But around like the early to mid 2010s, Game Freak started something called the Gear Project, where there's no point in sugarcoating it. They were just tired of making Pokemon, because that's like all they've fucking made since like the SNES days.
Oh, you know, what makes money, you do it over and over. Right.
Like, besides, they don't own Pokemon. They own like a third of Pokemon, but you know, they're not completely in charge of it. They just make the big RPG games. So they kind of have to, right? And like, if their team can't get bigger, they don't have a bigger budget. You know, they're not in complete control of that. So yeah, and this gets very tiring. A lot of Pokemon games are samey. So they wanted to make other games, and they said, we hope that these get as big as Pokemon. And of course, because you've never heard of fucking Gear Project, this was never the case. You may have heard of some of the games come out, like Tembo the Badass Elephant was like a platformer. They had Harmonite. Pocket Jockey, that just got announced to get a port on Switch and mobile phones. That was from this time period. But isn't it weird that it was around the time of X and Y that it was like the peak of Project Gear? Like after X and Y, there were still like 4 of these things that came out between like then and 2017. And around this time, it's clear as day in both Gen 6 and Gen 7 they were gonna make some Zygarde game, and then it never happened. And then Masu said, "Yeah, we never planned it." Almost as if he was just trying to make up for the fact that they were focusing on passion projects that never came to fruition. I'm not trying to bully here. I deeply sympathize, okay? These are human beings. They're not robots in the machine.
Yeah.
I get it, but conspiracies are fun. So, that is the tale of the reason why sometimes you see that picture of Zygarde on fucking life support. For years, it was just a joke.
Correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't that Town game made by Game Freak?
Yes, that was. I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I was thinking about
Little
that.
Town Hero.
Yeah.
Which, as we all know, was a huge success.
Music was done by Toby Fox. So.
Not all of it.
No, but
He
that
also did a
that was one of their selling points. Like, hey, it's got Toby Fox music.
Wow, that means the game's good. Yeah, you know what else Toby Fox composed for? Homestuck. He composed hundreds of songs for Homestuck.
It's like saying, hey, Grant Kirkhope's gonna be doing our score. It's like, that's great. What else you got? Music's great, but with nothing behind it, it doesn't matter.
It's okay. Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Oh my god.
Huh.
There's just so much stupid bullshit with X and Y. So much stupid bullshit.
What? Go for it.
There's a Pokemon that was not really a mythical like Volcanion, and we've seen Volcanion in like events since, but there's a Pokemon that was going to be presumably in like this hypothetical Pokemon Z that has never fucking seen the light of day. Ever. You were telling me you did a little bit of research on X and Y. Did you look into like the story at all? Besides,
I tried to, and it was pretty choppy because they kept giving like both versions.
Oh, okay.
So it was kind of hard for me to follow. I didn't get the full chance to really look into it.
Well, this might inform our conversation later, so I'll go into a quick little spark notes. The history of Kalos is that 3,000 years ago there was a war, and the old king of Kalos, his partner Pokemon, which was a Floette, died in the war.
Oh.
And he built a machine that ran off of Pokemon life energy to revive it. So like other Pokemon died in the process already during a period of war, so it's like even more gruesome than usual.
Yeah.
But like he was just so obsessed with bringing back his friend.
Yeah.
The Floette was revived, but he was still so horribly upset that like the tragedy had happened in the first place. He turned this machine into a weapon. You know this is the ultimate weapon. It's the big crystal flower thing.
Yeah.
And he used it to shoot a giant fucking space colony arc laser at the other country.
Why?
And it ended the war. But Floette was like, you know, thanks for bringing me back, but that's like the most uncool shit I've seen in human history. So I'm leaving.
Maybe he should have waited.
Yeah, maybe not at all. Maybe
I know,
you should have
right?
abstained completely from the whole revenge plot.
Yeah.
But the Floette left. Keep in mind though that this machine has the after effect of making you not just come back to life but immortal. So this Floette is immortal now, and it left. It's gonna spend the rest of its life away from its owner, AZ. That's the name of the king.
Yeah.
AZ is now eternal too, because he's been affected by the machine.
So it's like a radiation type thing where it's like if you're within close proximity, you've been like kind of infected with like this immortality type thing.
I don't know exactly how it works. I don't think they go into detail, but
Okay.
for all intents and purposes, sure. So now he's immortal, and he's just been wandering the globe. Not even the country, like the globe. Just for thousands of years, distraught that his friend left him because of his grievous mistake. He feels horrible shame for what he's done to other Pokemon to even make the machine, for ending the war in such a brutal way. AZ's Floette was going to be like a special Pokemon. It's got like better stats than a normal Floette. It's got a signature move called Light of Ruin that's kind of like the canon. and its flower looks like the ultimate weapon.
Okay.
And it's like Xerneas blue and Yveltal red. And again, like the data for this thing and its signature move was in X and Y
Just never
2013, and like just never happened.
Yeah.
However, the data for this move, like, you know how every move has a description?
Yeah.
For every single game that you could see it in, because they never take out the data for this shit,
Yeah.
for whatever reason, it's just like, this move cannot be selected. Okay, it's got a generic description. You know what game it has a description in? Scarlet and Violet.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Man, isn't that weird? Isn't that weird that they gave this thing a brand new description and there's no Kalos games coming out? Isn't that weird? You know what else is weird? Fucking Indigo Disc comes out and you can catch a bunch of legendaries, including box legendaries. You can get all these like game mascot legendaries like Ho and Lugia and Zacian and Zamazenta. You can get all the box art legendaries except for 2.
Yveltal and Xerneas.
And when I saw that and people were like, dude, we're gonna get Kalos remix, and I'm like, of course it was right there, because that's the thing, is that was the one time where I was like, you can't look into this shit too much.
No, you can't. It's impossible to know.
Until it happens and it's like, oh, well, fucking obviously. But 9 times out of 10,
yeah, but
this doesn't mean anything.
Exactly. It's like, it's not obvious. Like, as much as you want to say it's obvious, it's like...
Do you remember the hints to Heart Gold and Soul Silver?
No.
In battle only. You know, in Diamond and Pearl, how there's a Pokeball on the bottom of the screen. The colors of the top and bottom were not red and white, they were gold and silver. And we all thought it was just like an Easter egg, and you'd get these tinfoil hat people typing away on their computers. Guys, gold and silver gotta be remade. Would you shut the fuck up? It's just a visual Easter egg. Oh my god! Like 2 years later.
Yeah, I mean, like, how would you know? It's just a tiny little Easter egg. It's meant to be something you look back on, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Because you can't predict this stuff.
So, I think it's time for Zygarde's redemption arc. I think it's time for AZ Float's redemption arc. And while we're here, Magearna. Because Magearna, this legendary, this like mechanical fairy princess thing.
Is that the rock-looking?
No, that's Diancie.
Okay, that's...
Which was released in Gen 6, but Magearna is like it looks like it's made out of gears. It's all like gray and pink.
Oh, yeah, okay, I've seen it, yes.
So this thing, the most French Pokemon you've ever seen, is released as an event mythical for the games in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It's the first Gen 7 Pokemon ever revealed, and it doesn't belong. Later on, this thing gets a movie with the Gen 6 mythical, and it's in PokéFrance. It's totally a Gen 7 mon, guys. This totally wasn't meant to be a thing that we just didn't have time for because we rushed the fuck out of it. It's time! It's time for Zygarde. It's time for AZ Slut. It's time for Magearna. It's time for France to stop being shit. And that's why
In Pokemon.
I'm so excited, not for the quality of this game, but for the idea.
For my notes, I basically have what you kind of boiled it down to. Like, there was a war, the guy named AZ, the Immortal 3000 thing.
Wait, I also have to remind you that AZ is like 9 or 10 feet tall. For no reason.
Okay.
I just thought that was really cool.
So that's the history, and that's kind of what you're looking forward to. But the question I have right now is, what do you think this game is going to be about?
Is this the big question? I mean, it's a little more specific than what you asked. I mean, we know the general premise is, wherever that logo is that pops up a couple times in the teaser, that is very obviously going to be the logo of the company that is helping with the effort to redevelop Lumiose. and you are inevitably going to either be an employee or you're like just kind of helping with them to redevelop the city. It's going to be kind of like how you were part of the Galaxy Expedition team in Hisui.
The real thing that I am thinking about is they say, I think in a official Pokemon tweet they said this, or was it Nintendo? They said that this game is going to take place entirely in Lumio City.
It's so weird. So as soon as the trailer dropped, I went to check the site, and the site wasn't up yet. It's like, okay, that happens. You go on the official website, and it just mentions, like, this game will focus on Lumio City, but, like, the wording doesn't say specifically. And it's like, oh, okay. So, like, Lumios is going to be the hub, and then there's going to be other areas that Kalos would go to. Cool, okay. So it's like Jubilife City, or Jubilife Village. And then a Nintendo of America tweet, like, an hour after that is like, oh, no, it's just all in Lumios. It's like, oh, okay.
Now, I've seen some people bitching about this, but first of all, there's been a ton of games that have taken place in just one city.
That's my argument, too. However, I do understand the concerns because it is La Game Freak, which is French for it is Game Freak, which is English for it might be garbage.
Here's kind of the exciting thing that I'm expecting is when they say redevelopment. What was the first Legends game all about? Like, what was the big selling point of the game? It was the open world, right? It was kind of like, okay, well, here's this new thing and it's dangerous and you're doing this thing. This whole thing, I'm assuming, is going to be building a city. And it's all going to take place in Lumio City to the point where after a war, what are you often left with other than rubble and ashes?
Okay, alright, so this is the thing we have to get into. Well, the two things we have to get into. Why is there so much to talk about? It was a 1-minute teaser trailer. I hate that I'm talking so much. I feel like I'm hogging the air.
No,
but like,
good.
It's so weird. This is a good teaser trailer because there's a weirdly large amount of things to talk about. And I just keep thinking back to, like, the Frontiers trailer where Sonic runs in the field and glows blue and does a paraloop, but it's not a paraloop.
Yeah.
And then we don't even get the name of the fucking game. And we were just sitting there with our cocks in our asses for months.
I don't even think they released the name of it until like a month before.
It was a while.
But
it took a while. So the thing is I can't disprove this, and I'll get into this in a little bit about when I think the time period of the game will be, but the more specific thing I want to cover first is I can't disprove this. I highly, highly doubt the game takes place right after the war.
Okay.
My big reason for thinking this, again, like, it's always possible. It is. But my big reason for thinking this is, I don't know if you knew this, Legends Arceus is inspired after a very specific point in Japanese history called the Meiji Restoration. Legends Arceus, you're building up of the village, the like urbanization of that area of northern Japan was like a huge effort. Mm-hmm. And Legends Arceus is like heavily themed around it. Like, it's not a coincidence. Because this was like late 1800s, and that's exactly, if you look at like the technology and like the clothing styles in Legends Arceus, besides the usual like fantasy tweaks, right? That's very late 1800s specifically. Paris, I did not know until I was doing some research, is a city that it is, I think I want to say about 2,000 years old. Maybe a little less, but it has been redeveloped numerous times. The most recent of which is in the late 1800s, headed by a city planner named Haussmann, which is that's what's given Paris its modern look today. So the thing too with the war is you have to remember it was 3,000 years ago.
Yeah.
We start off the trailer with architecture that is very clearly like
New Age, like
18th, 19th,
closer to our age.
18th, 19th, or 20th century.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. No civilization at all had that architecture 3,000 years ago.
No, yeah, of course.
Again, like they could just say like, oh, but it's a fantasy world. It's not like one to one.
They could, but it's
3,000 years is a little too far. And given how much Legends Arceus took a surprising amount of like, I don't want to say accuracy, but like kind of genuine inspiration from the Meiji Restoration. It's not even to say that like it's for sure going to be the 1800s or it's for sure going to be the Houseman redevelopment, but like I think it's going to also take after a real place in history fairly closely.
Yeah. One of my biggest things is like I don't have any specific prediction for the time frame.
Well,
but just
I kind of hope you haven't tried looking into it too much because, as I found out quickly, it's a fucking headache to unravel this puzzle.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe it shouldn't be.
Legends Arceus was fine as like its own thing, where it's like, okay, person gets sucked back in time to a really long time ago, and it helps the whole thing. That's fine as a one-off one-off idea. What I'm wanting is like something actually taking place in the time going on, where it's like, okay, no space-time shenanigans, where it's just like, okay, this just takes place in this time.
Yeah, which this game might. So the weird thing is like, one of the first big conclusions that everyone started jumping to is this game takes place in the future because it starts off looking like, you know, maybe not modern architecture, but kind of older. And then we jump to what looks and feels like, without knowing for sure, a futuristic computer program that's like simulating the city being rebuilt. And it's like, oh, okay, so this is like later on this century or 22nd century.
What do you draw? What do you think of that as without comparing it to other people's notes? Because I have a different interpretation.
I'm leaning towards future the least as compared to past and present, but I'm still torn between those two.
My logic is that it is not anything to do with future. It is a blueprint.
Yeah,
it's what they want the city to become.
So you're implying that you think this game takes place in the present?
No, I'm implying that it takes place exactly like you said, where it's like, okay, it's like a couple, maybe like 200 years before the time of the X and Y games.
Yeah.
And it's the redevelopment to make it what it looks like today. What I think it is it's not going to be like Pokemon Legends Arceus, where it's like, oh, Pokemon are so dangerous and all these things. It's like, no, they've already established they want it to be a place for Pokemon and people to like really connect. And what I think that's going to be is that I'm expecting things to go wrong. I'm expecting like, okay, here's the company that's the head of development for this new architecture, but something's going on with Pokemon to where they are actively tearing it back down.
Oh, like they're acting abnormally feral and dangerous, like Pokemon?
It's actively like reversing the good of the redevelopment.
I do have a theory about that, and I hope I remember it later because I don't want to touch on it now. But like, okay. We could. The TLDR is there's a very specific way that we could handle something akin to alpha Pokemon, and like the reason why they would behave that way in this setting.
Well, one of the things I wanted to say, Pokemon X Dex entry, when the Kalos region's ecosystem falls into disarray.
We're just gonna get right into it. Yeah, it's Zygarde.
When the Kalos region's ecosystem falls into disarray, it appears and reveals its secret power, Pokemon Y, it's hypothesized that it's monitoring those who destroy the ecosystem from deep within a cave where it lived.
And you think because the city's being redeveloped, or because the company behind this is secretly let evil, Zygarde's gonna be like, no, fuck you, humanity.
I'm not assuming, like, let evil. What I'm assuming is Zygarde's gonna be on the people's side. Because what the people are actively seeking is coexistence with Pokemon. So what I'm assuming is, because this whole thing takes place in Lumio City, I'm expecting, like, a village or something, or, like, because we very clearly, it's kind of pretty clear from the blueprint that they showed in the commercial that it's, like, kind of split into, like, 5 parts.
Yeah, that's how it is in X and Y.
Exactly, and it's, like, it's split into 5 parts. I'm assuming you start off at 1, the others aren't kind of fully redeveloped yet, and you still kind of need to repair the one you're in.
Yeah.
What I'm assuming is you slowly start picking up Zygarde bits.
Oh, yeah, the cores. Yeah.
And you slowly start, like, once you get enough, he's kind of starts helping you, the player, to fix shit.
Oh my god.
That's what I'm assuming.
Are you implying that Zygarde is going to be like our box art lizard, like Gen 9, where, like, not necessarily that we ride Zygarde, but, like, they're with you all the time, they help you perform certain actions?
I'm assuming more like a Miraidon type thing, where it's like where he's always going to be with you. He doesn't do too much, and he needs to kind of regain his power, and he does that by helping.
No, that still gets my dick unfathomably hard.
and well, what I'm assuming is because they really stress with Zygarde. When I looked at the dex entries, I'm like, he is the balance.
Right.
He is so unbelievably the balance that, like, of course he's not going to be on the human side. Of course he's not going to be on the Pokemon side. He's on the balance side. He wants, and for a city that wants to find a coexistence between it, he's going to help that.
That makes more sense when you put it like that. I like that.
And so I'm assuming that he's going to, obviously there'll be situations where you have to fight Pokemon where it's like, okay, they're trying to destroy what you're building. He's going to help.
Yeah.
And so, like, or you could do something like, certain Pokemon or something happened to Zygarde, say where they broke him apart, and some Pokemon have some of his cores. You need to get them back, and so you have to defeat those Pokemon to get them back. Any number of different things could happen.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming it all comes back to you start with little tiny core.
Yeah.
And you progressively grow that throughout the game.
Right, and it helps too that there's a form of Zygarde where you only have 10 cells, and then there's a form where you have 50, and then you have the final form.
So, like, for like 2 parts you're gonna have, like, the 10 cell. For the other 2 parts you're gonna have the
50%.
The 50%, and, like, the last part you're gonna have 100%.
Big giant guy Titan.
Yeah, and, like.
Oh yeah, dude. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's like you just have him helping you out, and obviously what I'm assuming is that perhaps the redevelopment people might be evil. Who knows? Maybe they're trying to put that tower right in the middle. Maybe they're trying to build another weapon or something. I don't know. But you and Zygarde are going to have to take part in that. Who knows? I'm not sure, but...
Imagine the Eiffel Tower being another fucking space cannon.
Who knows?
It's the right shape.
It is.
I think it'd be super fucking stupid, and I'm here for it. I got no popcorn.
But that's my kind of I'm not expecting any. I don't know if this is wrong of me. I'm not expecting anything from Xerneas or Yveltal in this game, because they're more like.
Well, it helps that in their own games they do fuck all.
Yeah, it's like what are they? Especially the fact that this game takes place strictly in Lumios.
Yeah.
Like they're more like in the nature of the world.
Yeah.
This is like specifically like a coexistence between, which is why I think it's such a brilliant idea for Zygarde specifically.
Yeah.
It's so his field where it's like balance. So.
Which I never thought of it like that this entire week. I'm so glad you brought that up to me.
It's been weighing on my mind really conscious, because when I thought of redevelopment and I was like, wait a minute, what's Zygarde? So I looked him up and I was like, oh, that's all he's about.
Yeah,
he's about bringing the balance, and it's like it's perfect.
The only real stuff about Xerneas and Yveltal is like we don't even see like where they live in X and Y. you don't know anything about these guys, and then the main villain's like, I'm gonna repower the ultimate weapon and blow up the planet, and they use whichever legendary is on your box cover to power it.
Yeah.
So, because both of them are like super strong.
Yeah.
And the only other stuff is like every 1,000 years they do a thing. Xerneas is about life. Every 1,000 years it gives life to everything around it, and then it goes into a cocoon. Evoltal, every 1,000 years to keep itself alive. It kills everything around it, and then it goes into a cocoon. And Zygarde doesn't interfere with either because nature needs death and nature needs life.
What I was actually thinking, this maybe, if they really were going to include Yveltal and Xerneas, because yes, they do fuck all, but I'm assuming...
I mean, they're going to be involved to some degree.
I'm assuming that at the time this takes place, Yveltal was the most recent awakening. He just drained the life out of the area. And so they're like, alright, he's in a cocoon. He's vulnerable. Let's get our fucking Mega Laser, kill the fucking thing.
Oh my god, no.
But obviously they're gonna fail. But like that's their goal. They want to get Yveltal because it's like, if we have Xerneas, we can just have life all over. But like, as Zygarde and your character, you have to stop them. So, and what ends up happening is, I'm assuming even Xerneas has to come into the play and like help you out.
No, we must protect Yveltal at all times because it's fluffy. It's a bird, but it's got the weird beard scarf thing, the white gray tuft of like hair, and I don't know why a bird has hair, but it's fluffy.
I also had a different theory for like possibly like an end game battle where it's
Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Well, I had a different theory for the end game battle where it's like, I wanted to ask, did any of the legendaries ever get a Mega Evolution?
There are a few. Oh god. Oh, we have to get into Mega Evolution later.
I'm just touching on it here, but like...
Yes, there's a handful.
Okay, did Zygarde ever get one?
No.
He's getting one. Abso-fucking.
Oh, what? Hold on. I don't know about that.
Because it's gonna be... Here's the thing. It's gonna be... Like... He has to get extra power to like stop the people from doing their thing. Mega Evolution, and then
maybe I'm not gonna say it's impossible.
I'm just saying that with the because I'm expecting this Zygarde to be a whole like character system where it's like you grow with Zygarde, where you're like, oh, you kind of bond in friendship. So my natural progression is Mega Evolution for your companion. So I'm assuming that. I could be wrong again, but this is my theory.
No, I can't disprove it. I don't have any inherent issues with the idea. It's just I'm a little bit in disbelief, but like, yeah, why not? Because there's no special requirements to get a Mega Evolution, as we will discuss later. Hashtag game balance is my passion. Did I even speak into the mic?
Yes,
no,
you did.
I spoke into my zipper. Close enough. Yep, I forgot what I was gonna say.
Game balance.
No, we're gonna get into Mega Evolution later, which means I was gonna talk about something else right now.
Talk about the city. Talk about Zygarde.
Let's go through. Oh, right. So I wanted to finish the past-present thing. So something that was pointed out to me was when everything looks like it's like drawn or painted on paper, and it's just like the kind of old, nice little French architecture. It looks like it's in the past, and then you go to like a 3D virtual simulation of like the new city, which implies either present or future. And it's like, yeah, that sounds about right. That first clip was for sure in the past. And we can't even fucking say that because there's blatantly someone wearing a baseball cap. Baseball caps were not an 1800s thing. That's like 20s, 30s, 40s.
And that's why I'm saying like that whole thing is like the blueprint for what they want it to be eventually in the future. Like,
but here's the other thing too, is like they have like two big zoom out shots of Lumiose in like that Tron simulation.
Mm-hmm.
They have like the shot specifically. It's like a Dutch angle with not Eiffel Tower, Prism Tower.
Yeah.
And then it zooms out up on top for like the circular layout of the city where you can see like the 5 sectors, and they both look exactly like how Lumiose looks in X and Y, which is present day. Now, maybe that's just because it's not actually going to look that different. Maybe it's like the specific sectors that look different once you're like in the city, but like from far away you can't tell. But like those two aerial shots of Lumiose, it's like that's I don't see anything different.
Yeah.
The tower doesn't look different. The skyline doesn't look different. There's still like the same. At least I think X and Y Lumiose had like the 5 sectors. At the very least, you had 5 plazas, and they were arranged in that same way.
Yeah.
And you had the prison tower in the center. So in that regard, it's the same.
Can I just say, just as a quick aside, that when I saw that, immediately what I thought of, and
If you bring up the fucking pizza one more time.
no. I'll put that image up on screen right here, but yeah, it looks like a pizza. But other than that, it's like,
It doesn't look like a pizza. It looks like a circle.
but no.
Why would you make a pizza with 5 pepperonis?
What does that look like?
Is this gonna be some stupid bullshit?
This image right here, and I'll put it up on screen.
I feel like I'm looking at bullshit.
That is Midgar from Final Fantasy VII.
What's your point?
My point is that in each district, they're all different, but like they kind of have the same thing going on where it's like rebuilding.
Okay.
And so I'm assuming that whole blue part in the trailer where you're looking at stuff, I'm assuming that's like, this isn't going to be like the best way to describe it, but like the way you rebuild is by like kind of looking at things through this lens.
Yeah.
Of like a rebuilding set. So like maybe everything goes blue once you're in a rebuilding formation. You're like, okay, house here, shop here, and
Are you talking like in the Arkham games? Do you have like detective vision?
Yes.
Where everything goes blue and you can. Oh my god.
that's what I'm thinking. Something like that.
Pokemon Arkham City? Ooh.
And
It's gonna look like a PS1 game, baby.
and I'm not saying it's gonna look great, but I'm expecting a lot of
smart idea.
a lot of repeat textures for houses and stuff. But like,
sure.
I assume it's going because I keep thinking of that part, the redevelopment plan on top of the whole Zygarde thing. I'm like, those two have to be interconnected, otherwise it's a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's like, Zygarde is gonna help you make shit. Where it's like, okay, Pokemon keep destroying shit because there's some sort of eco misbalance. Zygarde is gonna help you actively fight off shit as well as actively build shit. And I don't know if the little cells build things ever. I know they connect together to make things.
I don't think we've ever seen them do it.
I can't remember, but
Who says they can't now?
exactly. It's like I don't know. I thought that was a mechanic I saw once in the cartoon. I can't remember, but
No, you were thinking of Legos.
they look very, very similar. But
That's gargantical, you fucking idiot.
but it also just kind of pulls into my theory of like, I'm assuming like once you get a section done, you have to move on to the next, and like you're gonna have a choice of going this way or this way.
What the heck is that?
Just a moment.
I really hope the Clown Marine Corps came up on the recording, the audio.
Oh god.
My life flashed before my honk.
So thankfully I remember where I was. I'm assuming that like Scarlet and Violet.
Where were you during the clown attacks of OT-24?
God damn it, shut up. I'm assuming that like Scarlet and Violet, you're gonna have to make a choice of, do you go this way or do you go this way to progress the story?
Oh, like you choose?
Yeah, and once you go into one area, you can't go to the next until that's finished. and you can't go to the next step here until it's finished. So I'm assuming you're eventually going to complete that circle.
Yeah.
But like, the whole point is going to be rebuilding the city so it looks like a city.
I just realized it'll probably be smaller than the other 5 sectors, but the center of the town with Prism Tower is probably also going to be different.
Yeah.
And this is a small aside, unlike my other very large asides from earlier, but this is one, a question, me asking you what do you think, and 2, me telling you all that I hope out loud. I hope that all the sectors are different loading zones, because I think that's what tanked Scarlet and Violet's performance so big. Was like, obviously not the entire world loads all at once. It loads like other games do, or like it's not even everything around you. It's mostly like what you're looking at and a little bit around you. It's it's procedural, but I think it would help if this game was still cut into zones like Legends Arceus. I can't imagine this is all like one big open city with like kind of invisible loading zones. I have to imagine they're all like completely separate.
Yeah. My workaround with that is that I do have an idea where it is when you start urban development. I actually just thought of this. This could actually be a really good idea. Say like the middle is like your hub, and like Prism Tower isn't quite like finished or something yet, but like say like that's where your whole thing kind of starts, and you have just like a round table of like houses and shops. Imagine like you're saying like, okay, I want to go there, and they're like, okay, to try and avoid you interacting with more dangerous Pokemon out there, we are going to section off the city with a wall. And that's kind of going to be what's going to prevent you from, going, like, interacting with the other zones. Right. I'm thinking it could be, I'm not sure, but it's just me thinking out loud where it's like, okay, eventually those walls will break down and become streets.
Yeah.
But like, for now, in the redevelopment plan of this, they're just sectioned off.
Yeah.
So that's just my initial idea. But
it's not like the town's gonna be super small. Everyone's like, it's so crazy to me that like everyone said, oh, as soon as we found out that it's just in Lumio City, this game was ruined for me. Like, listen, I also have very little faith in Game Freak, but like, it's not. Let's at least be sure of this. It's not going to be as small as it was in X and Y. It's going to be the size of a city. It's going to be the size of maybe not even all 5 areas of Legends Arceus, maybe just like 3 or 4. But that's still like all together, it's kind of big. It might even be a little bigger than everything in Legends Arceus combined.
I mean, like,
it's not going to be like the school in Scarlet and Violet.
No. But I am expecting a sizable outcome with this, because it is...
Yeah, it's going to be as big as, like, a real city.
Yeah. Like, it's not going to be anything, like, too short. Like, I'm not expecting anything like Marvel Spider-Man New York.
Yeah, obviously.
But, like, even, like, a quarter of that map, that's still a lot.
Yeah.
And so, like, that's kind of what I'm expecting more along the lines of, which is just, like, clearly not up to the detail aspect and everything, but like with the level of just wide area you'll have to kind of, I really hope they bring the ring system back. I loved that ring system, just to...
Ring system?
When you could cycle through your Pokemon and find which one you wanted to throw out.
Oh, yeah.
I'm hoping they bring that back. That was so fun, just to be able to know what Pokemon you want to throw out for the right situation.
Is it weird that I'm genuinely wondering if you'll even be able to free throw your Pokeball? No, I mean, shit, even Scarlet and Violet had that. You had, like, a dedicated button for throwing your Pokeball. So, like, I can't see them throwing that away after 2 games.
I do think that this game is going to be majorly built around Zygarde, and I think one of the things that's going to happen is, in order to get like maybe a true ending or a complete ending, you have to find, because like while you're in your vision mode, you're also going to be looking for pieces of Zygarde.
Right.
And like they're going to pop up as like little green blips, and you're like, oh, gotta go there, gotta find them, and you're going to be gathering to kind of like the the Spirit Tomb quest a little bit, but like way more streamlined, where you're gonna like be like encouraged to do it, and like it'll be a bit more obvious of where the things are.
Right, it's not gonna be optional.
Yeah,
really.
It's gonna be like, okay, you need to reform Zygarde.
I know we've talked about so much. There's still so much to go through. Hold on 1 second. I just have to read this text. $16 have been deposited in your account. Please say the game is good. In parentheses, this has been run through Google Translate from Japanese to English.
I'm gonna pause.
Yeah. 2024. France. The clown attacks. 18 injured, no survivors.
Drew, I'm gonna fucking throw you through a fucking window.
Clowns are funny!
Clowns are not funny!
Put a clown on screen.
Does that make you happy? You see the fucking clown, you see a fucking rubber balloon animal shit, and you see that shit and Zygarde pops that shit. Is that funny to you? Is that funny? Do I look like a clown? You're a clown. Fuck you. Now moving on.
You just have colorophobia, I understand. It's okay, it's a common phobia.
You just have fuck ass. And that's it. I don't know. I hate you. Fuck. Why? Oh, God, you.
Why? Why do you hate clowns and also me?
You're one and the fucking same. You annoy me, and then you go, and you make me fucking laugh? You fuck You irredeemable fuck ass.
Whoa! Whoa! Down to fucking glizzy! Jesus Christ!
So Zygarde. we
Why are you angry?
Because you won't stop bringing up the clown shit.
What?
You brought over the clip, which no one just saw.
What?
You're talking about like 18 dead. Like,
what? Oh, the fucking with the porn video?
God damn it.
I hope Agile and Strong Style doesn't come back.
I hope not. I hope it's just Mega Evolution. And even then, not much.
Mega Evolution is... So you have played a game with Mega Evolution in it. Sun and Moon had Megas in the post-game, but like, because they're just in the post-game, it's not like you're going to use them for much. And plus you have to go find the Mega Stones anyway. So it's like, you know, you're not given everything all at once, which is fine, but like... That's the thing, is X and Y honestly handled Mega Evolution, I think, really poorly. Just, at least in regards to the player campaign, in that, like, you get your brand new starter, and it's like, okay, great, these new Pokemon that, like, you're bonding with, right? They're totally gonna get Mega, they don't get Megas. And then you go, like, 3 towns into the game, and you get Kanto starters. You're just given, like, another starter, and they get a Mega, but not the one that you started your journey and already have been to gym with. Also, the ones that are new and exciting, no, boring ass fucking Bulbasaur, Charmander, Squirtle. And Charizard gets 2! Because we love Charizard, because we love Kanto, right? And then later on you get a Lucario that can instantly Mega Evolve.
I feel like Mr. Plankton with fucking Star Wars whenever he's Charizard. Enough with the lightsabers.
There are only 2 Pokemon that have 2 Megas. Do you want to guess what the other one is?
Oh gosh,
It's... You don't have to think too hard.
Is it Mewtwo?
It's Mewtwo.
Yeah.
He gets one where it's the guy that says, "Where do you work out?" and then the other one is the guy that responds at the library.
Big brain time.
Because, yeah, the first one's all, like, muscle-bound and, like, psychic fighting, and it's, like, a foot taller, and then the other one's just, like, a fucking embryo with a Mega Mind forehead. I love him so much.
He's just the fucking deer from the
Deer.
No, not the deer. What the fuck was he from the
clown?
Sword and Shield DLC? The antler thing?
Yes! Calyrex!
I
Yes!
don't even remember his name.
It is vaguely similar to Mega Mewtwo Y.
Yeah. So weird.
I've seen at least 2 people say, "Are we going to get a Charizard and Mewtwo X or a Z?" And each time I have lost a kidney. I now have no kidneys. Please give me a transplant. My blood type is B positive. But it's kind of hard to be right now.
That being said,
Oh, right, and yeah, we were talking about Megas. The whole point being, there's actually only one, like, brand new Kalos Pokemon that gets a Mega, right? And it's Diancie, which is already, like, an event legendary where, like, you just go up to a Pokemart and you get it. Because you went to GameStop Canada with your dad and they gave you and you downloaded and great. So you already don't feel immersed or bonded with this thing.
Oh, you think they're gonna be like how they handled what was it, Darkrai, Shaman
from the save files?
No, well, not just that, but like where you're just gonna like find them kind of randomly, like at a certain point in the game where it's just like, okay, well,
I think
this is the quest you get for them, and
that'd be fine for like Diancie and Volcanion,
yeah,
or like any others like that.
I was thinking like that. Like I'm hoping that they do something like that.
Yeah, because like we all know, like Xerneas, Voltal, and Zygarde are like going to be front and center. There'll probably be like one other. Anyway, what was this? Oh yeah, so like no Kalos mons except for an event mythical you don't get in the fucking game get a Mega, and the whole rest were, the vast majority are like Kanto and Hoenn mons because the Ruby and Sapphire remakes too, and then like a handful from Johto and Sinnoh and one from Unova. I'm ready for some Kalos Megas.
Okay.
I want a Pyroar Mega. I want a Pangoro Mega.
They seem to really push Pyroar a lot.
It's a lion. It's okay. It's cool.
I don't know. Its design is always just like weird to me. Like I'm never too into it.
I mean, if we're talking about Gen 6 Catmons, I prefer Meowstic.
Yeah, I kind of prefer that one too. I guess just a lion Pokemon. So.
Yeah, it's kind of straightforward. Oh, its mane looks like a sun. Yeah, that's
got
like
it.
It
just doesn't seem like the most creative they could have gone with it, but it's fine.
Where I was taking this Mega Evolution thing specifically is we have no idea what our starters are going to be, and I've been thinking about this for a while, and I think we can make some reasonable guesses, but there's not any one answer where I'm like, that's definitely it. And the first I want to posit to you is that we don't necessarily have to get 3 random starters. It could just be Chespin, Fennekin, and Froakie. And my big reason for thinking this possibility is that the starters may or may not get regional variants, but I think they will almost certainly get Megas, whether or not they get regional variant final forms. I think possible. Either way.
Yeah.
And you do have Ash Greninja, which is like essentially a Mega, but it doesn't require Mega Stone, but they've also... Ash Greninja has just not been in the last couple games. Like, it was a thing in Gen 7, and then Gen 8 and 9, it's just not a thing. For some reason. So they could just retcon it and either make it a Mega, or just give it a formal Mega. And then Chestnut and Delphox never got anything. Because Greninja was, like, the clear winner.
Yeah.
Like how, like Cinderace and Meowscarada have been. So those two have just been, like, banished into the fuck zone. And it's time for Delphox... Redemption arc. This game is about redemption arcs, baby. However, the other possibility, of course, is that we get 3 random starters, and I think
I'm kind of torn on it. I don't know if we're gonna get one or the other. I don't have much of a prediction as far as that goes. If
we don't get the Kalos starters, we can narrow it down, I think, a decent amount. In that, I think it's safe to assume that the starter Pokemon we'd be given in that case would not already have a Mega. and it'd be weird if we just took Pokemon that already have Megas and gave them new ones.
Yeah.
Because the only starters we have with Megas are from Gen 1 and 3. We don't have a third gen to pick from, so you don't get that, like, 3-gen variety like we did in Legends Arceus. So then, let's assume they do, like, 3 random gens. So we can eliminate Gen 6, we can eliminate Gen 1 and Gen 3. And then we can most likely eliminate the Gen 9 ones, because we just had them. So no Quaxley, no Sprigatito, no Fuecoco. So that leaves 4 other generations for each of the others, which I think narrows it down quite a bit. And again, that's making a lot of assumptions, but there's logic behind them. So with that said, what I'm leaning towards is Snivy, because it's already French themed. Piplup, same thing. We don't have an explicitly French fire starter. Like, you have Torchic, which is a rooster. That's actually the national French animal, but it already has a Mega.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with either Litten or Scorbunny.
I think Litten would be interesting. I wouldn't be opposed to Litten. I think if Scorbunny's a part of it, I don't know if that would really match because of its evolutions.
So yeah,
it's so distinctly like a soccer player type Pokemon.
Yeah, and that's kind of the rub, is like, even if they get a regional, like, final form too, then that can help change things. But, like, I mean, yeah, soccer's in France, that's a thing. But, like, the reason I was thinking Litten at first was because they could ditch the wrestling theme and make it just more of a generic, like, brawler without such a heavy sports theme. And I mean, there's nothing explicitly French about this, but just kind of in general, for as long as, like, humanity is known about them, tigers have been looked at as regal animals. And that's the thing, is, like, Empoleon is literally Napoleon.
So you're thinking, like, more along the lines of, like,
maybe like an emperor, or like a war general, or just like a soldier, a knight, something like that.
I would think something general.
Superior's themed after like a princess, and it's got the fleur-de-lis theme going on. So like I would imagine if they keep Empoleon and Superior's like kind of noble royal themes, then they'll give the fire starter one. And I guess it's just harder for me to see that with Cinderace, and I think Chimchar and Tepig would be kind of weird picks in that regard. Like, not to be racist here, but typically pigs and monkeys are not seen as, like, kings, right? Or magistrates.
It's very, very different, because I can't imagine... I mean, again, we're completely guessing, but it's just like...
Cut to a month from now, where we find out you get Charmander and Froakie, and there's no grass starter. It's just a green Charmander.
Yeah.
Thank you for $60. Thank you for pre-order. Here's a Pikachu sticker.
I don't really have much to say about the Pokemon in general, because that's not really where my focus is. Yeah, I like the Pokemon aspect of Pokemon, obviously, but it's like... there's not much to really say about them other than, like, I'm curious what Mega Evolutions they're going to be in, like, how that's going to be integrated. I'm assuming that... When... Do they ever say when Mega Evolution was kind of, like, when it became a thing in their country?
What, like, in the universe?
Yeah.
So, the side effect of the ultimate weapon having fired its like, energy shot and ending the war, the energy that came off of the weapon after that created Megastones. There's no specific explanation for why certain Pokemon get them and why others don't. It's just like the energy formed into crystals, and some Pokemon can use them. Something I didn't want to go into with the Pokemon, I know, I agree with you, it's not super interesting, but it was just an observation I made, because people, day one, of course, had gone through the trailer and pointed out all the Pokemon, added in their evolutions, and now we have 66 Pokemon we know we'll get. And that's not even counting like Zygarde or like starters.
Yeah.
And I noticed that every single one of these is already in the Kalos dex. Granted, that's not saying a whole lot because Kalos has the biggest regional dex with 450 fucking 7. But
okay.
A lot of Kalos-mons, a few random ones like Ekans and Bellsprout, and then we already have a good number here that Mega Evolve. We have Gardevoir, Absol, Steelix, Heracross.
Okay. Yeah, I'm assuming they're going to be just pulling in like every Mega Evolutioned Pokemon.
Right, and the only reason that that's even remotely an interesting point to bring up is just because I don't know exactly how many. I want to say X and Y had like 30, but then Ruby and Sapphire introduced some more, including Pokemon that were in the Kalos dex. I'm guessing, not that they have to, and if they don't, that's okay, but like, why not? Just bring in every Pokemon that can Mega Evolve, maybe besides like the Hoenn legendaries or Mewtwo.
I just thought about this as a great idea. The enemies of the area that are kind of like the totem Pokemon of last game, they're Mega Evolution.
Yeah, I already thought about that, and I have shit myself thusly. Because I don't think you understand how scary Mega Pokemon are. Megas were not introduced for game balance. Megas were introduced for, we want more 8-year-olds to buy our game.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them were given to Pokemon that never got like an evolution or a power-up, like Mawile. Who's using Mawile? So let's give it a really tough Mega. And like, oh, cool. Like, yeah, it's busted, sure, but like, compared to Mawile, who's practically unusable, especially in like competitive or final bosses or shit. Like, yeah. And then they gave Mega Evolutions to Pokemon like Garchomp, Lucario, Latias and Latios, Mewtwo, and do not even talk to me about Mega Rayquaza. I don't want to talk about it. I don't feel like having nightmares.
I don't expect those types of legendaries to be in this game.
I think we can count out Mewtwo, Kyogre, Groudon, and Rayquaza. Yeah. Latias and Latios they could throw in if they hate me.
I think those types of legendaries could be used for a future Legends game in itself.
Yes.
Something entirely different. Because that's what I was saying before. I was like, before this was a done deal, we were saying like, oh, Pokemon Legends Rayquaza or something like that, with Deoxys doing his thing or something. I don't know. But that was the idea. And with things going the way they are now, I'm actually kind of glad they went down this route because it's such a unique system of rebuilding, and I just think that they can do so many interesting things with the whole Zygarde concept, and I don't know, it could be like a land war struggle where it's like the Pokemon want the land that's good and that's left, and like that Yveltal hasn't decimated. But who knows? I'm not sure, and it's a very interesting idea because there's just so much I can't possibly fathom.
I do want to posit the idea. I feel like I considered this, and for 1 second I was like, this is a cool idea, and then I thought this kind of just takes away from like what could make Legends Kalos feel more unique compared to Legends Arceus, and not just be like Legends Arceus 2. But if they want to, they could have another excuse for this game doing one of, two of, or all three of these things, being the player's isekai'd into another point in time or space, time travel being involved at all, or space-time rifts, particularly the latter. Because, while it's not the same space-time garbage that you can pull off with the Sinnoh legendaries, you have a Gen 6 mythical that's all about portals. It's called Hoopa. It's a little genie fuck-ass that exclusively makes portals.
I can see that.
They made a movie all about it where the entire plot is just it's pulling legendaries from everywhere, and Ash and company have to deal with it.
Yep.
It's just like Regigigas versus Mewtwo versus Groudon.
Which is like Giratina and...
Yeah, just because it's a stupid little bitch asshole.
I could see that being a thing, like,
At the very least, I think...
You know what? That'll be a subplot.
I think
Hoopa has lost control of his hoops, and they end up in just various regions, and you have to do, like, regional phenomenon type stuff.
Oh, no, I don't think it's Hoopa's lost control. I think Hoopa's just being a fuck-ass again.
It's
just being a
could be
brat.
that, yeah.
But at the very least, I wanted to propose the idea that, like, if Mewtwo's in the game, but this game takes place in the past, assuming... Because I'm leaning more towards present, but if this is in the past, and they want to bring in Pokemon again, like Mewtwo or like Magnemite, Porygon, and you have those same kind of like wild Pokemon spawns, it can be explained by Hoopa.
Yeah.
I don't know if I want that system in the game. It's just more of a hypothetical, like, well, they could do this.
They could. It'd be interesting.
There's one last big subject I want to touch on, but I want to know if you have anything else to talk about first, because my last subject is going to be about the legendary specifically.
Trying to think of anything that I wanted to say. Let me check my notes. Because I basically said most of what I was...
Kill all clowns.
And mines.
Put clothes in dryer. Make sure all clowns are actually dead. Buy ketchup.
So...
And ketchup is delicious.
So if I have anything else to say, it's probably that as far as this game taking... The one big worry I have is how big the map and region is going to be, along with keeping the terrain interesting.
You know what? I actually forgot to bring this up. There was a theory I saw while I was in the bathroom a few minutes ago. By the way, maybe it's just because my body's different from yours, but like, it doesn't matter what I eat the night before, or like if I eat it all in the morning or a little bit or a lot, I always have to go to the bathroom at some point, inevitably, that I'm here at your place for a couple hours, right?
Yeah.
And I've never seen you use the bathroom while I've been here.
I've done it. When we were recording.
I sincerely don't remember that. I'm not saying it didn't happen.
You just do it more frequently than I do.
I have memory lapses. I'm just saying Pixar didn't happen.
Okay, well, moving on.
I'm just saying, guys, 50 subscriber goal.
We'll post Ryan's fecal matter if you get 50 subscribers this month.
And if you donate to our Patreon, we'll put a picture of your face or username on a piece. We'll post it to our Twitter.
Yeah, and if we get 100 subscribers, Ryan will exclusively put his social security number on his fucking Patreon site.
It starts with a 9.
And no more hints.
For every 100 subscribers we get, we'll add another digit.
And we get 700? My God.
So is that everything you have?
Yeah, that's basically everything I have.
So the reason I want to talk about legendaries one more time specifically is, I mean, there's a little more to this potentially. The title of this game's weird, right?
Yeah.
They could have just called it Legend Z or Legend Zygarde, or even AZ, because that's the name of a character.
Yeah.
That like will almost certainly be in the game, because he's immortal and a hobo and 9 feet tall, and it's great.
I have seen that if it's not an A, it's like a Greek, some fucking Greek letter, but
oh my no,
that's the theory.
It's not a lambda. For fuck's sake.
I don't fucking know. I don't care. I've just seen it. That's all I've seen.
No, I'm not mad at you. It's just that's such a dumb theory to me because Z is not a Greek letter, A is not a Greek letter. We did a Greek letter thing with the Ruby and Sapphire remakes, Omega, Alpha, and Delta.
Mm-hmm.
So like I kind of get that, but like, what does Lambda have to do with anything? Nothing. Now.
No idea.
You know what? I might as well get this out of the way. People say the A looks like the ultimate weapon, and I do not see it. So, like, yes.
I've never seen the ultimate weapon, so I don't know.
So, like...
I assume it looks similar, but not close enough.
Not really. So,
just like a giant pop.
It comes to a tip, and, like, the bottom is bigger than the top.
So, like...
But it's not green, and you notice the A has, like, a plant thing on it.
Yeah.
Well, it's not like a tree or a flower. I mean, it's shaped like a flower, but like it's made of fucking like pink and white crystals.
Mm-hmm.
It's not Lambda. It's not the eternal weapon.
Okay.
It's a dick up my ass for every time I hear a stupid fan theory. Will we get Mega Charged on Z? Does AC have a sun and it's Dexys? What?
Okay, just get back on track. I'm losing you. I don't understand.
I'm sorry. So yeah, the Z has hexagons, which look like Zygarde cells.
Yep.
The A has like it. I thought there were scales at first, like snake scales, but they look more like a plant sprouting out of the ground. And Zygarde has nothing to do with plants. Really, not even like Xerneas, and even then Xerneas is blue. So it doesn't seem to tie into like a specific Pokemon that we know. And I theorize that we already have X, Y, and Z legendaries. We're gonna get an A legendary.
Okay.
And I was trying to think, what would it be themed after? Because Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde take after a couple different things. Like, you may have heard that, like, oh, they're Norse. It's not so clear cut.
Well, clearly you have God of Destruction, God of Life. You have the balance between them.
Right. That's the most straightforward interpretation.
And
that's the thing. Is like if Xerneas is already life, then what is A? Because you can't just say, oh, Xerneas is only animal life, and this one's plant life. No, Xerneas is life. Life is life. You could say Ball is life if you think about it.
You could do something... This is a stretch. I am really pulling this out of my ass, but it's like the foundation for life.
Okay.
It's really stretched it, but it's like...
Well, that...
Something that supports, like, because I think of, like, okay, what takes away from life, what takes away from death, and it's like, okay, maybe there's something underground that's always been there, but it doesn't really appear ever.
Right.
And it just kind of goes through just this, like, life and death. It's like, oh, it's very dry up there for a while. Oh, look, life again. Oh, dry up there. Oh, life. And it's like, I don't know, maybe it just gets sick of this shit. I don't know.
Yeah. It's a little hard to tie in when it feels like these three already cover everything.
Yeah.
And again, like, why a plant specifically? I'm like, okay, sure, it's a grass type, but, like, what else? So I want to go over what Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde all kind of represent, because, like, I've heard before that, like, typically, especially Pokemon legendaries, tend to be, like, a couple different concepts and not just strictly, like, from one thing, like, Reshiram and Zekrom, right? They're like yin and yang, they're from Taoism, but it's not just that. There's a couple other aspects that go into it. So I tried figuring out exactly what these three little dudes were. I was up for hours. Because the long and short of it is, like, and not that this is inherently wrong, but, like, for everyone saying that, like, oh, it's Norse mythology, Game Freak didn't do their research. It's very, like, loose inspiration, which is fine. You can take loose inspiration. It doesn't have to be one-to-one. They're just cool big animals.
Yeah.
the reason that people say they're Norse legendaries is they all resemble animals that in Norse mythology all take. They take, like, they live on or near Yggdrasil. So, like, Xerneas represents, like, 4 different stags that represent, like, the seasons, and they eat the branches of the tree. But then that doesn't work because that kills Yggdrasil. It's taking away its life force. So it doesn't really... You look weird. Okay. Hold on, let me finish this real quick.
Just got an idea. Go ahead.
So that inspiration for Xerneas doesn't make sense because it's the Pokemon of life. It's like antithetical to what the stags are in Norse mythology. Then you have a Veltal, which is like an eagle at the top of the tree.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with death. It's just like an eagle at the top. Zygarde is...
Well, it's predator, I guess. Predatory.
Zygarde is a serpent or dragon that's like gnawing at the roots of the tree, like the stags. But it's also like specifically evil, and Zygarde isn't evil, it's just kind of there. There's other things that these guys represent I want to talk about, but what is your idea? Because you looked like you had an epiphany.
Okay. So, even again, this is a stretch, but I thought this might be genius if it happens. So what if the tower, Prism Tower, it didn't start off as a tower?
It started off as a tree?
No. It started off... We're gonna think it's a tower. What if it's actually a mechanical Pokemon?
As in, like, this thing's always been there before Lumiose was built?
It's basically going to be a gigantic fucking robot. But it gets its power from the ground. From nature. I came to this conclusion because I thought of the A shape. And I think of, like, at the bottom you kind of see, like, a nature aspect and you see it get white at the top. And
yeah.
I thought, okay, what's going to be the plot of this game? Okay, well, it's got to be about the difficulty of redeveloping this town because we're in, like, a Yveltal phase. So, what can we do? Xerneas isn't going to fight the fucking thing. Zygarde isn't going to fight the thing. Let's build a fucking Mecha Godzilla to try and fucking kill the thing. And it'll basically be like the first Prism Tower.
So you're implying that, like, if this is in the past, then, like, the Prism Tower that's there in X and Y is an actual building.
Yes.
But the first one that was built wasn't a building.
Yes.
I can't say...
This is a really dumb idea.
I can't say in any honesty that it's so stupid it'll happen. It is so stupid. I can't even say I like the idea, but, like, sure. I mean, like, for point of reference, right?
Because I'm thinking, okay, because I'm also thinking of nature.
Yes.
I'm also thinking we have all 3.
Yeah.
What the fuck could that A be? And I'm just like, the complete antithesis of nature, mechanical. You go mechanical, but it has to get its... The irony is that it has to get its energy from the ground.
Yeah.
It's powered by life. And so we don't know that, like, oh, maybe this thing is, like, absorbing... Maybe it could be like this. Maybe it could be... Everyone's been expecting Xerneas to rise up. It's been time for them to switch off, but Xerneas hasn't. Because this thing is draining the energy from the ground. And
that takes away from Xerneas' power.
Yes, and so it's angering Yveltal because he's like, or not angering, but he's like about to come up and destroy everything, but they're like, oh, but when he comes out, we can get him. Because we'll have absorbed enough energy to try and get him.
Yeah.
Again, I'm completely pulling this out of my ass. But this is just my idea because it's like, I've just logical conclusions, like, we got all the 3. And
yeah,
what's gonna happen? You as Zygarde has to stand up and bring fucking balance.
But you said Zygarde.
Zygarde. You as Zygarde have to bring balance back and like destroy the thing.
Oh,
Because it's gonna trap
All right.
Yveltal. Maybe.
And then that disrupts the balance.
Yes.
Zygarde. Okay. I cannot wrap my head around the idea of a mechanical building being a Pokemon, but then
it's not going to be a building. The thing is, it's going to look like
the same shape. Okay. I also have to remember that Duraludon is halfway there. I hate that fucking piece of shit. Oh my god. And I also have to remember that, like...
Just remember, we're not Gigantamaxing shit.
Thank god.
Yeah.
But what I also have to remember is, like, the genius of Pokemon writing is we spent months and months trying to figure out the mystery of the Paradox Pokemon, and everyone was like, so it can't be as simple as they're just from the past or the future, and the final wave of DLC answered, no, it's not that simple. They're from the past or future of alternate dimensions, which is why they don't make sense. Which is the stupidest fucking easiest way to explain that shit, and I love it and I hate it. That's why Jigglypuff has some dumbass hair. Yep, it's because it's not the past form of Jigglypuff. It's the form of past Jigglypuff from a parallel timeline.
That's why we have Mechagodzilla. We have the fucking... What is it?
I don't want to talk about Mechagodzilla. I don't.
What is the thing's name even? The
what?
future... it's just called Iron Claw or something.
Iron Thorns.
Iron Thorns.
We have a Mecha Tyranitar. It's in black and white too, but it's not real. It's in the Hollywood because you're filming a movie. All right. So that's the thing is, Xerneas, Yveltal, and Zygarde, they don't fit with the Norse theme. None of them really represent Norse mythology. Until Game Freak decided, wait, what if we did make it make sense? So the two extra forms that Zygarde gets, right? They kind of retroactively made Zygarde actually somewhat well represent three of Loki's children that he had with the Giantess. One is a dog, or wolf, that's your 10% form. One is Jormungandr, which is a large serpent, and it's different from just like a regular snake, but like it works well enough. And the other is not a giant, but a humanoid.
Big humanoid monster.
Kind of fits with it's closer than Xerneas and Yveltal are.
Okay.
So, but it still doesn't really work with that whole trio, which is why I'm hesitant to say the A legendary will represent Norse mythology. If it does, it's really the only idea I have for the A legendary. I want to say it's either going to be there's only one other animal on the tree of Yggdrasil besides the stags, like one or two birds, and the snake. And it wouldn't be exactly this because none of them are, but there is a squirrel. I think it's pronounced Ratatosk or Ratatosker. In Norse mythology, it tries to instigate fights between the snake and the eagle by like going up and down a tree and spreading lies and rumors, just like shit talking. I don't think it'd be antagonistic, but like I could see a squirrel being a grass type legendary because of their affinity for nuts. They have little burrows of stuff in the ground. Maybe it's like planting seeds, and that's why you see something sprouting in the egg.
Because also another thing is like when the area gets like dry rot from Yveltal, squirrel can still be planting seeds, I guess.
Right, and that's why it's in the A's, because it's a new beginning. That's the thing too, is like Z to A implies like after an end comes a beginning.
Yeah.
In some way, this game is going to be about that. That's all Z-A can mean, because it's not talking about AZ. He doesn't even have a hyphen in his name. It's not going to be like his evil twin immortal brother or some bullshit. It's about a beginning after an end. And I think that's why the A looks like a sprout, is it's representative of a new beginning. And I think we'll get a Pokemon that represents another beginning.
Okay. It could be. I know there's a mythology. I don't know if it's Norse, but there's like a very long-tailed squirrel-like monkey. Where it's like it's got like a squirrel's tail, but it's like mostly monkeyish. I think it was in Zelda that I saw this, and I looked it up, but like it also is kind of like that nature representative.
Yeah, I don't think I've heard of it. I wonder what it's from.
Can't remember, but I'd have to look into it.
I'll brush over two of the other inspirations these legendaries have.
Okay.
So the way that Xerneas represents creation, Yveltal's destruction, and Zygarde is like balance and protection, is kind of like the three supreme gods in Hinduism, called the Trimurti, being Brahma, Shiva, and Vishnu.
Okay.
But like in no other way do they represent Hinduism, because like it's not like Shiva is represented as a snake and or like a bird, and Vishnu is like a snake. They don't
sync up.
Yeah, they don't sync up. But like thematically they do.
Okay.
The one other like kind of religion or mythology it seems like they pulled from is Celtic, which makes sense. France, you're right there.
Yeah.
You know, like, yes, Vikings have occupied Paris for like a short amount of time, but there's not a lot of actual Norse shit going on in France. Celtic, much more so. Xerneas, Celtic mythology has a horned god that represents life and nature. He's like a guy with antlers.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting somewhere. Yveltal is like a bird, and it represents death and destruction. You have Morgan, who is a death goddess that sometimes takes the form of a raven. It's really more like an eagle or a falcon, but like, okay, alright, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And then Zygarde's a snake, and there's barely anything about snakes in Celtic mythology. There's a little bit. There's some symbolism about like snakes representing life in general, or like change. There's like one snake goddess, but doesn't really have to do with much.
Just in a number of different mythologies that I've seen, the snake can be a lot of different things. It can be a consumer. It can be a
it like can be life, death, poison.
Yeah,
lies.
it's a lot of different things. So
yeah,
you could go that route.
But
I would.
Celtic mythology doesn't have anything that explicitly ties to Zygarde, like balance or protection or a counterbalance to anything. So it's all very loose. Honestly, the best kind of theming these guys have in common that I think Game Freak pulled off really well. And again, it's not like they tried and failed with these other inspirations. I think it's just loose inspiration, and that's okay. It makes them feel more unique than just a one-to-one with a real-life religion. I'd rather it be that way, but have you ever thought about why they're X, Y, and Z?
No.
I love this shit. This is my new fucking Grafai rant because I think this shit's genius. So, ignoring like Stadium or Coliseum or whatever, like games made by Game Freak, mainline games, X and Y were the first 3D. So 2D games have an X-axis and a Y-axis. Yep. Your X-axis, that's left and right. That's your horizontal direction, right? So you take a terrestrial animal, just something that's just on the surface, on the ground. Get a deer. Okay, great. And it looks like an X, because like the antlers and shit. Awesome. Y-axis, verticality, up and down. So you get a flying animal. You get a bird. Z-axis... Well, in a 3D world, everything has depth, so it's a little hard to do. You need a little abstraction. So, what's the equivalent of depth there? Well, you could say, like, something below you, in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
A snake with a burrow in the fucking ground.
I was actually thinking deeper. I was thinking, like, the many pieces of Zygarde taking up the depth.
Oh, you could do that, too.
Similarly, I'm not entirely behind that idea, but just an idea.
So the reason I brought all that up is just to maybe get you, the listeners, or you, Ryan, brainstorming on, assuming this even has a legendary at all, what it could be. I think so. I think it will be, because why not? But again, besides like the Norse squirrel on Yggdrasil, and maybe they use loose inspiration of like, oh, maybe it plants seeds. I don't know what else it could be. Like, all we can say for sure it's a grass type, but like, I couldn't find anything really about squirrels in Hinduism or Celtic religion either. And so it wouldn't tie into X, Y, and Z as in like the 3 axes of the 3rd dimension. There's something about A with like a 4th dimension or like mathematics or space-time. So,
well, the first thing I think of is
A's
like your model, like that you would put on an XYZ kind of platform type thing, but that's just...
Yeah, A has no to that.
Yeah.
So my best guess is, if they're gonna pull from any mythology, it'll just be Norse. It's gonna be very, very loose, like it already is. And A is not gonna represent anything about axes or like mathematics. It's just gonna be a new beginning, and that's why it's gonna be a grass type. I know that was a whole lot of tangential garbage just to say, hey, we don't know, but I want to see if anyone else can come up with some compelling ideas.
Yeah, because I've already kind of solidified my idea. I'm more focused on like the gameplay aspect of it, not the whole mythology.
You're not getting Eiffel Tower Transformers. I won't let this happen.
It was just a theory. I have no idea. And that's even if the A is a Pokemon.
Well, I do want to say real quick that as much as I do not believe your theory at all, one, there's a non-zero chance that could happen. Or two, I kind of like it because it would provide as like an analog to the ultimate weapon. Because the ultimate weapon is already a machine. It's just like made of crystals. It doesn't look like a building or anything. But it runs off of Pokemon life energy. Like, Pokemon have been sacrificed to make this thing power up. So I kind of like the idea that someone else would build a giant Titanic thing, but one, it would have a different aesthetic to look more mechanical or urban, and two, that it would also run off of life energy, but maybe in a way that's not as destructive, almost as if like it's an attempt to learn from history's mistakes. But I also like too that like in your interpretation of where this could go, it's still being misused. Like, it's being used to attack essentially the natural embodiment of death. It's like opposing a force of nature that you're never going to be able to really fight. It's wrong to. So I like the idea that like people are trying to learn from history, but they, you know, out of good intention, you know, not for evil or because I hate the world, but like genuinely trying to do the good thing, they end up making the same mistake again.
Yeah.
I think there's kind of a beautiful poetry in that. And then who better to, you know, stop this kind of pointless or dangerous kind of mission than Zygarde, who provides balance. So you and Zygarde come together to show people like, hey, this is not what we need to do to make a utopia for people in Pokemon. We need to just accept nature as it is, let it take its course, and we will get through it together.
I was even thinking like...
And then we get the Transformers.
It might not even do that. It might just be just a bit... Because I'm also just thinking of like the shape. The shape kind of vaguely reminds me, like that A shape, reminds me of, what's that Pokemon that was like an Ultra Beast from Sun and Moon? But do you know what I'm talking about? Like the huge one that looked as tall as a building and it had like weird gigantic arms and shit.
Celesteela, the bamboo one?
I think so, yeah. It was weird, but like I always
Stakataka, although it's not really shaped like an A.
I also just think of like, what do the bad guys do typically? Like, oh, they want to create the ultimate Pokemon weapon, like...
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not saying it could or couldn't be a Pokemon. I'm just saying, like, I could see it being one.
Yeah.
Like a fake Pokemon that eventually gets blown up. Who knows? I have no idea. But, like, it also could just be a beam. Like, that they're just aiming right at Zygarde.
Yeah.
Or not Zygarde,
Yveltal.
Yveltal.
Don't hurt my fluffy bird friend. I love too. It was so smart that like there's nuance to a lot of Pokemon design, and I love that like Xerneas is not good, it just is. And it's the same thing with Voltol. Like, it drains life force to keep itself alive. Well, I mean, every animal does that.
Yeah.
We breathe in air, we take in moisture, we eat meat, we make dens in the ground, we feed off carcasses. It's just another form of life. It's not bad.
No, it's just nature.
It just is. Yeah, they're just animals. That's my favorite part about Xerneas and Voltol, is that they're just animals. And Zygarde, I don't think you could really even argue Zygarde is good. Like, why do we have to care about the planet so much? Because we live on it? There's nothing inherently good about being eco-friendly. It's just, we see it as sensible. So, in that sense, Zygarde it can be seen as, like, good from a human perspective. But, like, from a truly objective, non-human point of view, it's not good or bad. It's just, like, it cares about its sense of balance and what it wants out of the world.
Yeah, and I mean, like, really, there's no... I mean, there's nothing to say that Zygarde couldn't be bad and couldn't want, like, oh, not the city or something, but, like, I just see it leaning more towards that. And just with the whole, like, ZA thing, like, maybe... It's a really dumb idea. Maybe it'll be, like... Because the king's gone, like, who knows, in, like, a whatever, some other country part of the world or something, they could be like, this is, like, reversing what he did or something like that. I don't know.
You
they
mean,
could
like, they want to wage war again?
More like they want to try and end it once and for all, not realizing that it's just going to start up more war.
Okay, yeah.
Like, it's going to be portrayed as, like, listen, if you do this, you're attacking the ecosystem.
Yeah.
Like, you're just going to create more trouble.
Right.
Like, who's to say that the land won't overgrow and overtake? Like, who's to say that Pokemon won't rule over us? You know, like, what happens then? Like, I don't know. It's just, and that's gonna be the thing. It's like Zygarde fighting for balance.
Right. Okay, this is completely unrelated, but there's one other thing. Just on the loose subject of we're trying to figure out what the story's gonna be, and I'm really interested to see what everyone has to say in the coming months, because I think our next trailer will likely be June. May or June, and that's when we'll get, like, a little bit of gameplay. We'll probably get, like, the starters, a little more info on the premise. Yeah. But as interested as I am in seeing all this theory crafting, there's one idea I've seen a couple times that is easily disproven, and it's not to be a wet blanket, but just to, like, I would hate to, if anyone cares about what I have to say with the fucking, like, 2 subscribers we have, but let's just wrap this up. I've seen theories that because hypothetically they'd be close to each other like France and Spain are, that the ultimate weapon shot a laser into the center of Paldea, and that's what created the crater, because like Paldea is the hypothetical country that was at war with France. This does not work. This is explicitly not the case, and I love the idea. I loved the idea
of connecting the tissue
until you realize the war was 3,000 years ago. The crater of Paldea was made 1 million years ago, and it doesn't make any sense to be like, oh well, there's already a crater there, but let's shoot the laser there. Why not? Sure.
Yes.
It,
for no effect.
Unfortunately, does not work. So there's no tie between like Area Zero or Terrapagos or Terrestrialization and the Ultimate Weapon. As fun as that would be, I'm not telling you that you're wrong. Game Freak is telling you that you're wrong. Don't come at me for reminding you of the truth. With that said, if this game mentions at all anything about Paldea or Galar and how they relate to the history of Kalos, I'll be very happy. Because I like world building in my videos game.
Galar even done? Well, I guess it depends when it takes place.
France and the UK.
Yeah, France and the UK would be a thing.
History with each other.
Yeah.
That I know nothing about, but you can tell me later. Well,
I mean, I could tell you a little bit, but I don't know too much.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, there's a lot that could be done, and I think the biggest part and the reason why we came together for this one is because, like, there's so much. You just found that dirty for no reason.
No. It's a completely different thing.
Oh. Well, I was gonna say the reason that we, got together for this one is because there's so much potential here.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the most exciting part, where it's like we don't know, but that's kind of fun to not know right now.
Yeah, it's fun to let your imagination run wild. And I don't want this to lead to me saying a punchline of like, even though the game's gonna suck. Like, listen, I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy it. Will I enjoy it more than the last couple games? I don't know. I want to say realistically, just as much, not any more or less than the last couple games. Like, hey, like, I like what little we know about like the setting, giving Kalos and X and Y another chance.
I mean, like think of it this way: like before Legends Arceus, I had never really, I didn't really play a Pokemon game twice. So I mean,
yeah,
it's such a new, exciting concept that I just like, even though it still has a lot of the basic core elements of Pokemon, which is like turn-based combat. It's just kind of interesting.
I do think I prefer turnstiles over like revolving doors. A little more fun to push through. This is the lamest joke of all time.
Yeah, I was really like, is that what you got? Is that really what you're... Alright, that's fine by you, I guess. Could anything else? Anything you want to say to wrap it up?
So... there's a non-zero chance that Mr. Mime gets a Mega Evolution.
Yes.
Okay. Honestly, the one last little fuck off, who cares topic I want to go over for like approximately 45 seconds is X and Y introduced the fewest number of Pokemon, and that's okay because like it was also the gen of Mega Evolution. So if you're counting like new designs, it's equivalent to other gens. It's like 100 or so, but like brand new Pokemon, it's like 60 or 70. It's not a lot. But I almost kind of hope that the dex is a little smaller than 450. Just, like 300 or something.
I'm going to say that it should be smaller simply because, like, you could use that as a plot development for, like, once the city's built, who knows, we might get more Pokemon that come to our land.
Just same as, like, Legends Arceus, like 250, 300.
Yeah.
And that way, the Kalos mons get a little more time to shine, especially if you give them Megas.
Yeah.
Right? And because I think a lot of Kalos mons are actually really cool. I'm a little mixed on the whole gen in that regard, but a lot of them I think are like really kind of cool and underrated, especially thematically. Like Furfrou. Like, okay, we're making a game about France, and the game has a theme of like beauty. A poodle, and like you can take it to a shop and get it into like one of 10 different styles. Like that's just stuff like that I love. Or like we're introducing a new fairy type. Let's make them all French. Okay, so like one's perfume and one's like desserts. Just dumb shit like that. But I hope Kalos Pokemon get a little more appreciation after this, especially some of my favorites. Meowstic, Gourgeist.
I do really like the idea of also like urban development, because it's like it's gonna really focus up because the city is so focused on the companionship between the Pokemon and everything, versus like where everything was like, oh, it's always wild or something.
That's the thing I forgot to bring up earlier. I promise we'll let the show end. I promise. But you brought it up and I was like, oh, I remembered, and then we just started talking about something else.
Yeah.
While I was in the bathroom, I was looking at a post, and when you were talking about how the city, like the different sectors of the city might have like different Pokemon, that reminded me, because I've been racking my brain this whole week about how like yeah, obviously we're just gonna have like wild Pokemon in the city, I guess, but like how is that gonna work? And then I saw this admittedly kind of tinfoil hat post, but like it seems like a rather natural way to go about this. So whether or not this city has already been built, or if it's like brand new, you could do it as such that the 5 different sections of the city represent... Kalos has like 5 major biomes. In the southeast, you have like plains and meadows. The southwest, you have like the coast with like rocky bluffs and beaches. the northwest, you have a desert, like right by Lumios. Northeast, you have swamps, and then like directly to the east, you have like snowy mountains and tundras. We know there's like 5 plazas, 5 big sectors. So not to say that like literally one section of the town is going to be an undeveloped fucking desert, but like maybe that's how they distribute the Pokemon and make it feel like a natural kind of progression.
Yeah, they could do something like that.
So like here's your grass.
Because like I was saying, you could have
water.
it to where it's like, oh, this section first, then this section, or this section.
Right.
That'd be interesting.
That's how you also make sure that besides just like ghost Pokemon in the catacombs and water Pokemon in the canals, it's not just like a bunch of random Pokemon everywhere. Like, oh, there's some like sand here, so we got ground types. There's some ice here, you know.
Kind of like how
it'll still look like a natural city, just like it's currently being built.
One of the things that was disappointing to me in Arceus was that like there wasn't that clear divide where it's like, oh, there's clearly the area where there's a lot more water than everything else, but it's like, but there's no area where it's like especially like rocky or ground based or sandy tag. Like,
they're kind of like almost there.
Almost, but like, and then there's like the fireplace that doesn't have much fire Pokemon. It's really small.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well.
I almost kind of like that in that sense. Sinnoh feels like this too, and they translate it well into Hisui, that like they feel more naturalistic. It's not like, this is the fireplace where you get Ponyta. But
yeah.
If they do what I'm talking about with Legend ZA, I think you'll like it. That's something that people really like about X and Y is like, besides the fact that like you go through the region in that order I talk about, it also has this theme of like you're going through the seasons. Like there's not a literal like time season mechanic, but like you start off by meadows and forests and it's like spring, and then you go to the rocky coasts, it's summer. Then you go through like a spooky swamp with like mushrooms and shit, it's fall, and then winter in the mountains.
That's interesting.
And I almost wonder that if they do that same thing in Legends ZA, that yeah, it'll feel more kind of like what you're talking about, where there's a clearer,
more streamlined, more planned,
not so much naturalistic, but just a little bit fantastic, a little bit exaggerated.
Yeah, I'd be down with that.
The most important part about this game is Klefki. People have shit on this Pokemon for too long, and I'm dick fuck cock tired of it. Klefki is my friend! Honestly, my biggest hope is that if there's any Kalos Pokemon that gets an upgrade, it's Avalugg. And I don't want a Mega Avalugg. Avalugg needs more saving than that. Because it's one of those Pokemon that's like super high HP attack and defense, and everything else, particularly special defense and speed, are like cartoonishly garbage. Avalugg is unusable. They gave it a variant in Legends Arceus that gives it more weaknesses, and it's even worse. I want Avalugg to become a pseudo legendary, like Dragonite and Metagross.
Okay.
I want it to have stats as strong as a legendary, and then it'll be kind of sort of usable. Because you can't completely salvage the thing. You're not going to turn it into fucking Deoxys or Miraidon levels of busted. But like, just make it a giant big glacier. Maybe add the water type to it. Give it like Blissey HP.
I actually think I wanna. It's been a while since I've actually played a Pokemon game. It's been about a year actually now. I do
Same
wanna.
here.
Yeah. I do wanna rebuy Arceus sometimes, some days, but
Yeah.
who knows? Once I get paid, we'll see how that
I'm
goes.
glad you sold it to me for all that blow money.
Well, I needed it for the blow.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Wait, you mean cocaine blow or blowjob blow? Actually, in either case, no. YouTube, wait.